Well, good evening, my boys and girls. How are y'all doing? I love you and I miss you. Why am I wearing my robe? Well, because tonight I'm going to read you two bedtime stories. So put on your pajamas and come join me on the couch. The first one we're going to read is The Napping House by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Don Wood. The second one is Milo and the Magical Stones by Marcus Pfister. Both great stories. Come on, get on the couch and come join me. Did you notice I have my Dr. Seuss slippers on? I'm ready. Okay, here we go. The Napping House by Audrey Wood, illustrated by Don Wood. Do you think you could sleep like that in your bed with all of those animals and people on you? I don't think I could. It would keep me awake. This is the title page. The Napping House. Audrey Wood, illustrated by Don Wood. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And in that house there is a bed, a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. Do you see the child sleeping here? And there's a cat and a dog, and it looks like a granny. And on that bed there is a granny, a snoring granny, on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that granny there is a child, a dreaming child on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that child there is a dog, a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that dog there is a cat, a snoozing cat on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that cat there is a mouse, a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that mouse there is a flea. Can it be a wakeful flea? On a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. A wakeful flea. Who bites the mouse? The flea bit the mouse. Let's see what happened. Who scares the cat? Who claws the dog? Oh my goodness, the cat clawed the dog because he was so afraid. So look at the dog. Now the dog's going to do something. Who thumps the child? The poor child woke up and got afraid. bumps the granny. What does Granny do when she wakes up? Who breaks the bed? Granny broke the bed. And look at the little mouse flying in the air here. Oh my goodness. In the napping house, where no one now is sleeping. Oh, I just love this story, and I hope you enjoyed this story. The Napping House. The next one we're going to read is Milo and the Magical Stones. This is a very cool book because it has two endings. It has a happy ending, and then it has a sad ending. Milo and the Magical Stones. So this little mouse is Milo, and he's finding stones that he thinks are magical. Let's find out what happens in this story when Milo gets the magical stones. Are you ready? Here we go. In the middle of the sea, there was an island, and on this island lived Milo and the other cliff mice. They loved their island. It provided them with food and shelter and protection from the rough storms that pounded waves against the cliff. The waves are pounding on the cliff every day. During the summer, Milo and his friends worked hard gathering food. See if you could see it all. Yes. Sometimes they would take a break from their work and skip flat stones out over the sea. In the evenings, the mice would stretch out on the cliffs that had been warmed by the sun and watch the stars in the night sky. If it was warm enough, they would spend the entire night outside telling stories and enjoying the mild summer air. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But when the first winter storms arrived, the mice would spend most of the time huddled in their dark, damp caves, dreaming of light and warmth. So they all had their own little place to stay. After one of these storms, Milo crept out of his cave looking for food. He poked his nose curiously into every crevice. Then, in a particularly deep crevice, he saw something extraordinary, a strange glowing stone. Using a long stick, he carefully pried it out and carried it back to his cave. So he saw this glowing and got his stick, and he picked it out, and he's carrying it now back to where he lives in his cave. Milo was amazed to see that the darker it got, the more brightly the stone glowed. And not only did it provide light, it also gave off a comforting warmth. Happily, Milo curled up in the corner of his cave with his treasure. But he was not alone for long, because the bright light soon attracted the other mice. Everyone wanted a stone of his own, and they asked Milo to show them where he had found his. But just as they were about to set off, wise Balthazar stood up and spoke. "Don't forget," he said, "the stones belong to the island. If you take something from the island, you must give something in return." So there's two endings to the story. We have the happy ending and the sad ending. Let's do the sad ending first, and then we'll do the happy ending. What do y'all think? Is that a good vote? Okay, let's try the sad ending. So remember, Balthazar told them that they have to give something back in return if they take something from the island. So this is the sad ending of the story. Let's see what happened. Only Milo heeded Balthazar's warning. He immediately began thinking about what gift he could give to the island. But the other mice hurried off to find the glowing stones. They squeezed into the tunnel and started digging wildly, using sharp rocks. They chipped away at the walls of the tunnel. They tossed the smaller stones aside. They wanted only the biggest ones. This is not going to turn out too good. Let's see if I can hold it like this. Then the mice dragged the glowing stones into their caves. They grew greedy and jealous and spent so much time worrying about who had the most stones that they couldn't even enjoy the comfort the stones brought to them. Milo watched his friends sadly. He worried about what Balthazar had said and wondered what would happen. He sighed. There was something he could do but get back to work on the gift he had thought of to give to the island. Okay, there was nothing he could do but get back to work on the gift he had thought of to give to the island. I thought I said something different. I'm sorry. Let's see. Soon the mice decided that they needed more of the magical stones. They crept back into the tunnel and dug day and night, piling the magical stones in and around their caves until the whole island glowed. They boasted about their stones and they argued about who had the most, the biggest, the brightest. Greedy, greedy, greedy. They should not be doing that. The mice were consumed with greed, and as they dug deeper and deeper, the walls of the mountain got thinner and thinner. Before long, the mountain was hollowed out completely. Uh-oh. If it's hollowed out, then it's going to fall in the middle and start crumbling, and they're not going to have a place to stay. Then suddenly, with a thunderous roar, the mountain collapsed. Giant boulders fell, burying the tunnels in a heap of rubble. Waves pounded against the shore, flooding most of the island. Only one cave was left. Inside, Milo and Balthazar crouched trembling in a corner. The stones could have brought such happiness, said Balthazar quietly as he spoke. Milo went back to work, carving a stone to give to the island in thanks for its magical gift. Oh, and that's the end. Yes, that's the end of the sad story. Let's try to go and do the happy ending. Let's see what happens when they do the happy ending. Balthazar's right, said Milo. But what could Milo give to the island? He thought about it for many days until at last he had an idea. He went down to the shore where the sea washed up all kinds of stones and looked for one that was about the same size as the one he had taken. He sat down and started chipping away at the stone. Curious, the other mice gathered around. Milo worked for hours until he had carved a beautiful sun into the stone. Then Milo led his friends to the hidden crevice in the mountain and put his carved stone in the place where he had found the glowing stone. The other mice began digging. Directly below the crevice, they found a tunnel that ran deep into the mountain. The further into the mountain they went, the more glowing stones they found. Each mouse took one and carefully carried it home. Then, like Milo, they found ordinary stones along the shore and started to decorate them. Some mice carved, etched, or drew on their stones. Others wrapped them or decorated them with flowers, leaves, or roots. They created beautiful works of art, then carried them deep into the mountain and placed their gifts where they had found the glowing stones. That's exactly what they should have done in the sad ending, but they did not. So I'm glad we're reading the happy ending now. From then on, the windy winter weather did not bother the mice, who snuggled happily in their bright, warm caves. Often they got together and told stories, just like they did in the summertime. These gatherings made the long, cold nights seem shorter and winter less damp and dark. Every year the mice celebrated the beginning of winter. They met in Balthazar's cave and danced and sang. When it got dark, they took the magical stones on a parade along the cliffs as a special tribute to their beloved island. Isn't that nice? So wasn't this a wonderful story? I just enjoy this. I hope you did too. Well, I hope you're tucking into your bed right now and get your little pillow, put your head on your pillow, say your little prayers, and I love you. Good night. Good night. Good night.